Hello and welcome. This tutorial series will focus on editing patches on the Alesis Andromeda. In this video, I will examine the oscillator and pre-filter mix sound modules in more detail. I will introduce and explain topics for Oscillator FM, Filter FM, sync, ring modulation, and filter feedback. And I will show how to program some basic patches along the way. Tuning knobs give control over coarse semitones, sense, and fine for dialing in those exact sweet spots. To make a classic sawtooth synth patch, detune one of the oscillators by about 18 cents. One pitch defeats the keyboard scaling for one-off sounds. Sync control is only available on the Oscillator 2 tune page. What is sync? Normally both oscillators are free running without regard to each other's phase. Sync will lock their phases together. Andromeda has two kinds of sync. Hard sync will lock in phase the fundamental frequencies. Soft sync will lock in phase with harmonic frequencies. Vary the semitone of Oscillator 2 to hear the effect. All four waves can be on at the same time for more complex timbres. Saw has a positive and negative slopes possible. If two saws are tuned the same but having opposite polarity and sync is turned on, the resulting wave will average to a flat line on the DC 0 voltage crossing, thereby cancelling out the sound. Only Pulse has a pulse width knob for each oscillator and level control. All other shapes are just full on and off. FM stands for frequency modulation and is simply using one or more signals to modulate another signal. One type of FM on the Andromeda is filter FM, modulating the filter frequency, the carrier, by one or both of the sound of the oscillators, which are the modulators. Use the soft knob to turn on that oscillator's filter FM. This casts the signal from the oscillators to the filter, but the filter still needs to know what to do with this signal. I'll show in my next video on filters how to accomplish this. On this page, envelope 1 is only configured to affect pitch of one or both oscillators, and this page is shared by both oscillators with four ways to access it: Oscillator 1 menu, Oscillator 2 menu, the dedicated knob, and the button. Offset is an initial amount setting from which the level control will add or subtract depending upon whether the level is positive or negative. Let's see how to put this to use. Load a new program. Set both oscillators to square. The default program uses only filter 2, so set the envelope 2 amount to 0 and increase the cutoff frequency. Turn on hard sync and notice how changes in the Oscillator 2 semitone will make Oscillator 1 squelch. We want to use envelope 1 to accomplish this task. Make Oscillator 2 semitones be 0 again. Go to the envelope 1 page and increase the Oscillator 2 level to about 25. Envelope 1 is too fast, so change the attack. Also, decay 1 is too fast, so increase it and feel free to change the shape of decay 1 to, say, an S-curve. If you like, add some portamento. Make it dirtier by adding sub-oscillator or noise. Save the patch if you like, or if you're a deviant like me, set Oscillator 1 semitones down -24 and switch the sync mode to soft. Add some mono delay. Oscillator2FM Page is only available on Oscillator 1 because it uses Oscillator 2 to modulate the sound of Oscillator 1. Don't be thrown that it's called Oscillator2FM. Again, frequency modulation is simply using an audible sound to modulate another signal. This time, we will only be concerned with modulating Oscillator 1, the carrier, with the frequency of Oscillator 2, the modulator. The result of this FM will have to do with the ratio between both oscillator frequencies and add tonal harmonics to the sound. As well, there are two kinds of Oscillator 2FM on the Andromeda. In linear, these harmonics added won't change the pitch of the notes except at extreme values. Exponential, on the other hand, will add harmonics by shifting the pitch of the notes. Exponential will sound familiar because that's how most FM synthesizers, like the DX7, do this. On this page, you'll also see the pulse width modulation. Remember, this instance of pulse width modulation is only to do with using Oscillator 2 to modulate Oscillator 1 pulse width. Soon you will see how pulse width of either oscillator can be modulated by any of Andromeda's other sources. Notice the FM path doesn't pass through the pre-filter mix. Therefore, Oscillator 2 level doesn't even have to be up to hear its effect on Oscillator 1. Oscillator FM is also a good chance to use Oscillator 2 to set one pitch or even rescaled across the keyboard any way you like with the modulation route using a source like voice key number. Using Oscillator 2FM, smaller amounts of modulation may be more useful to add subtle character to your sounds. The menu Assign setting simply links your choice of FM to the Oscillator 2FM knob on the front panel for live use. Just know whatever you assign to that knob can in itself be modulated by the dedicated mod button right next to it. You can also access this setting in the menus from the FM Mod tab. Lastly, just because Oscillator 2 is not similarly pre-configured to be frequency modulated by Oscillator 1 doesn't necessarily mean that it can't be done. You can also have an Oscillator FM loop for truly bizarre results. Next, you'll see how this can be done. The weird little pseudonym NZEXT has to do with modulations that use noise or Oscillator 1 as a source. Just like the ENV1 page, the noise external page is a common page shared between Oscillator 1 and 2. The source can be any of the three kinds of noise, or hello, Oscillator 1. If you still have Oscillator 2FM going from the previous topic, add some Oscillator 1FM and then you'll see this FM loop. Oscillator 1 can even modulate itself. Unfortunately, the result is simply decreasing the pitch. With the modulation buttons, you can modulate the oscillator's pitch and FM levels. Take note of the dedicated pulse width modulation here. This is where anything else, not just FM, can be used to modulate the pulse width. Before getting into that, I first want to show you how control routes work. When you call up the new program default patch, it is pre-configured to use the mod wheel to activate and increase vibrato. For both oscillators in mod 1, notice LFO1 has been routed, but the level is 0. A control route is being used behind the scenes that rescales the modulation amount, in this case using the modulation wheel. Next to the mod wheel, there is a mod assign button. Click it twice to see the control routes page. Here, two control route sources, both using mod wheel as a source, which are mapped to modify the initial 0 level settings for mod 1 for both oscillators. Load a new program. Assign both oscillators to pulse and kill mod 1 for both. For oscillator 2, detune by -12 semitones. In the pre-filter mix, go ahead and add some sub-oscillator to your liking. For oscillator 1, hit the pulse width modulation button. Set the source to LFO1. I'll use a little trick by hitting both the up-down buttons at the same time. It will get initialized. Do the same for oscillator 2 pulse width modulation, and assign it also to LFO1. Go to the control roots and use the delete button for both that you see there. Tab to the C root page. Scroll root to oscillator 1 PWM and set source to mod wheel. Scroll root again to oscillator 2 PWM and notice the source is still default offset only, so to make it mod wheel and click the grid tab. You'll see both new control roots there, but we'll need to change the levels to be around +30 and -30. Just get it close. It doesn't have to be exact. And make sure they are enabled. Now play some notes using the mod wheel to bring in the pulse width modulation. Change the speed and shape of LFO1 to your liking. The ring modulation knob sends a signal to the filter module that multiplies oscillator 1 with oscillator 2. Turning down the oscillator levels will allow ring mod to be heard by itself. Change the tuning of one of the oscillators, or again automate this action by applying ENV1 pitch change for one of these oscillators. Filter feedback is a popular trick on modular synthesizers and the Mini-Moog. On the Mini-Moog, it involves routing the output of the headphone jack back into the external filter input to overload the filter. In the pre-filter mix, sending filter feedback here will not fully activate the feature until you visit the post-filter mix module and make some more settings, which I will explain in my next video. Now you have learned about a wealth of oscillator features on the Alesis Andromeda and hopefully had some fun programming a couple of surprising patches. Join me in my next video, which will cover the filters in more depth, including examples of filter FM and filter feedback. Thanks for watching.